Hi everyone. Over the past few years I found some really amazing fossils like this turtle skull over here, the penguin, some really cool shark teeth, all sorts of fish skulls. And what I often get asked is, how do I go out there and find some fossils myself? What kind of rocks to look for? Where do you go? So I decided to put it all into one video, which is this video. If you do have any other questions, maybe how to identify fossils or anything like that, put a comment at the bottom of the video and I'll make another follow-up video on this. Hope you enjoy it. The three types of rock is igneous, which is volcanic, sedimentary and metamorphic. Let's have a look at the igneous ones first. So in an area with a lot of volcanoes, you don't normally find fossils, but you can find some really awesome crystals, like this agate. This one is one Tyler found, and he found it in the Ashburton River, and this would have formed in a bubble in the magma, and the bubble then gets filled up with chalcedony, which is a silica rich mineral. And you can see it's got some water lines in there, and that's probably the right way up. So it's got a base over here, some nice water lines, and then some crystals that grew in there. So I've got some pumice, also silica rich. Silica is the stuff window glass is made from. And then of course some obsidian, which is the same stuff or the same material the pumice is made from, just a different crystalline structure. You can see it always breaks in those, I think it's conchoidal patterns. Here's a thunder egg, a New Zealand thunder egg. That's silica in there, forming that nice agate bit there. And then this black stuff is rhyolite, which is the old magma. It's got some little crystals growing in there. I think this is basalt, another igneous rock. And it's got some chalcedony crystals growing throughout it. Another piece of obsidian. And there's some really nice big feldspar crystals from the west coast. There's our feldspar crystals there. I think there's some biotite mica in there, but that's another volcanic rock over there. Normally the volcanic rocks with these big crystals are intrusive rocks, so the magma never came out the volcano. It cooled down a lot slower so the crystals could grow. You don't usually find fossils in volcanic areas. You do find cool crystals, and you can find really nice petrified wood like this. This petrified wood was covered in the ash layer, so that preserved it, and you can see how smooth and shiny it is. That's because it's got a very high silica content. You can kind of make out that it's a tree. And now for the best kind of rock, sedimentary rock. That's where you're going to find most of your fossils. I've got a few examples over here. This is called green sand, and you can see it's got some Viperoconus, also called fossil asparagus in there, which is kind of like a barnacle. Last I heard, they keep changing their mind on it. But if you look at this, the grains in there, those are sand size grains, and the green is from glauconite. And when we say sediment, we basically mean mud. So if you think of a lake, at the bottom of a lake, all that sediment, or at the bottom of the ocean, you've probably seen videos of the deep ocean where there's that layer of silt on top. So this would have been sand, so slightly bigger particles, whereas silt is more like this, the concretions that I find the crabs in. You see the crab legs sticking out there. This is formed in siltstone, so this is much finer. It's like dust almost that's coming off here. It's not like sand grains. So siltstone, mudstone, they are from really deep water, very small particle size, so they've traveled a long way from shore. where something like sandstone, which is this one over here, a bit of sandstone, you can see the grains. Well, at least I hope you can see the little grains there. Piece of mystery bone in there. This would have been a lot closer to shore, this one probably. So siltstone, sandstone, very much the same thing. And here we've got some shale. I think this trilobite is actually from New York State in this shale, so I'm sure some of you will know where this is from. But that's another sedimentary rock shale. Limestone is also a really big group of sedimentary rocks, and there's various names for limestone depending on how much fossil material, how much calcium carbonate is in it. It can be quite, a thing on its own. And then I've got a conglomerate here, and you can see it's got little rounded pebbles throughout it. That's why it's a conglomerate. If these were angular pebbles or angular rocks in here, that would be a breccia. And there's little bits of bone and shark teeth throughout this. So conglomerates can also be really good for fossils, like this one. I just had to bring the turtle out again. And you can see that's a very, very fine siltstone there. So that would have been a deep water deposit. Yeah, so sedimentary rocks, that's where you should be spending your time. Sandstone, mudstone, limestone, shale. I'll show you this little card. This is what you get given in first year geology. And I'll tell you, so you've got silt over here, and you can barely see those particle sizes, and then very fine sand, medium sand, and then granules, and then it will go bigger. You'll have cobbles, so cobbles are that size, pebbles. So every size rock basically has a name. So this sandstone over here, if I go look, probably the closest is this coarse sand. So it's between coarse and medium sand, that's the grain size over there. So definitely a sandstone. If you wanted to be technical, it's a coarse sandstone. And then you've got metamorphic rocks, and metamorphic rocks are just sedimentary rocks or igneous rocks that have either been heated up or they've been subject to a lot of pressure when they were pushed under the earth or into the earth. And your shale would become slate, which would then become eventually schist.
Before you do any fossil hunting, just make sure you understand the laws in your country. So in New Zealand, fossils are protected objects and you cannot remove them from Department of Conservation land or reserves. You also can't send them overseas or out of the country without a permit.
Now that we know kind of what rocks to look for, we're looking for sandstones and limestones, mudstones, those kind of things. Let's go have a look at this geological map of New Zealand. And if you're in a different country, I'm sure you've got something similar. Ours is quite cool because it's online, so I can just come in here and I can access this website for free through the GNS website here. Give it a moment to load. Oh, that was a good click. So landslide deposits, that's not very interesting. Let's have a look here, see if we can find something a bit better. This is Christchurch. So this is a big volcano over here. This is Banks Peninsula. You can see this is all what's that, breccia tuff, and then we've got some, I think, basalt here, some basalts over there. So this is a giant volcano that you can see here. I wouldn't go look for fossils there. There will be some cool gemstones, especially down there at Birdling's Flat. But then if we go around here a little bit further south, you start seeing some interesting formations over here. And if I hover over that, that's limestone and green sand. That would be a great spot for fossils. Some more limestone and green sand there. River deposits, I don't normally have great luck with river deposits, but it might be different where you're from. Basalt over there, and I think that's also basalt here, so all the pink in here is basalt. The red is kind of the limestones, so that's all awesome for fossils. Now you know where it is now, so now we know where the fossil areas could be. Now we need to figure out if we're allowed to go look there, and luckily there's another cool website, the Outdoor Access Maps, and once again I'm sure you've got something similar in your country. And I can actually come in here, this bits in green, that's dockland normally, so you can go walk there. You can't collect from there, but you can go look at fossils, which is half the fun. But then if we go look in here, if we look there, yeah, that's public land, and then you can see all these little walking symbols. Those are rivers you can go walk up and down, and that's normally where I spend most of my time. I'd be walking along the shore, like you can see there. There's lots of walking symbols there, and you can walk up and down the rivers, and that's where I would find most of my fossils, is, you know, the rivers bringing the limestone down from the areas it's cutting through, and as it's tumbling it down the river, it will expose the fossils. Well, let's go have a look at one of these rivers. We're down here at the river, and the rocks over here have actually been transported from upriver, which makes sense. I mean, rocks get tumbled down rivers as the rivers flow, and what this is going to tell us is what's happening upstream. So we're going to look through these rocks over here, and hopefully we're going to find some cool sedimentary rocks, which will tell us that there are sedimentary layers that the river's cutting through upstream, and hopefully there will be fossils in these sedimentary layers. Let's have a quick look. I've literally spent 2 minutes and I just put together a few sedimentary rocks I found here. Here's a bit of sandstone, and the difference between a sandstone and a mudstone is the size of the grains. I'll put a photo up on the screen now of a grain comparator. The grain comparator is used to tell you what you should call a rock, whether it's a sandstone or mudstone. They're the same kind of thing, they just have different sizes of grains in them. Here's a bit of green sand, which will have a lot of glauconite in it. The green stuff in this rock is the glauconite. Got a bit of limestone here. So all this, the sandstones over here, there's 3 sandstones there. That might be a limestone, there's 2 bits of green sand. This is all sedimentary rock, and that tells us that upstream somewhere this river is cutting through some really good fossil layers, especially this green sand layer. You can already see there's like all these little trace fossils in there. You can take it a step further, because these rocks can actually tell you what the environment was like when they were formed. Green sand, you can't have a lot of wave action. It needs to be a very quiet, probably deep water area, otherwise this won't get deposited. Same with limestone. Limestone also tells you that there were no rivers flowing off the land to bring mud into the area, so this is almost pure fossil, so it would be from the forams, and the other micro fossils would have created this calcium carbonate, which is what limestone is. And then if you get sandstones like this, it tells you that you were quite close to the shore. The further away from the shore, the smaller the grain size. So the mudstones and the siltstones that I find those big crabs in, that's usually quite far away from the land. That was deep water, like 300 meters deep. I've just found 2 bits of rock here that contain fossil shells, so that's a really good sign, because where you find fossil shells, chances are you might find some shark teeth or other cool fossils like penguins, crabs, anything really marine. If I was in a new area and I was finding these kind of rocks, these conglomerate rocks full of broken shells and things, I'd be like, yeah, it's a good spot to have a closer look at.
And don't forget to go check out your local landscape supply store. You can often find some really cool bits of sedimentary rock, like these limestone chunks here. This one even has a piece of flint in the middle here. I'm sure that if I spend some time looking through the rest of the rocks, I will definitely find some fossils in there, some really good fossil material, and you can get it delivered to your house. A great way to learn of fossil locations and actually go on fossil hunts is to join your local rock hounding club. In Christchurch we've got the Canterbury Mineral and Lapidary Club, and they've got awesome club rooms with a huge collection of local fossils and crystals, and they also go on regular field trips. The geology department at many universities will also have a collection. Usually they've got some days that they're open to the public. This is the one at Otago. It's an awesome geology museum full of fossils. They've really got a huge collection of fossils. You can get a great idea of the local fossils in the area just by looking at their collection. This is the Canterbury Museum, and you can see they've got a good collection of fossil crabs. Once again, you can get an idea of what fossils are in the local area just by seeing what they've got on display. Mostly museums will display fossils from the local area. And some days you just kind of have to get in the car and go for a drive and see what you can find. This is what I often do on like a Sunday afternoon. Pick a place on the map and just go for a drive.
Well, it's only taken me the whole afternoon, but I finally found a new fossil site, something that's not on any map. Have a look down here. It's absolutely packed with shells. Most of them seem to be broken. I'm sure in between here there's going to be a nice unbroken one. And this is exactly the kind of area that you'll find shark teeth and even bones you'll find in here. There's just so many fossils in here. I've got a pretty good idea of what age this is. I think this is Miocene. So there is a chance that we can find a megalodon tooth in here. I'm just going to take my time and look through here, see if we find anything really cool. But I can just see so many shells in here. There's shells everywhere. All these little bits of white you're seeing on the screen here, those are shells. So definitely a marine setting, like most of New Zealand fossils are. But maybe there's a meg tooth in here somewhere. I'm really stoked with this site. So yeah, that's how I go about finding my fossil sites. It's a lot of exploring, it's a lot of driving, but usually you find something. The perfect mix of fossil site and public access.
Well, I didn't end up finding a megalodon tooth at this site, but man, look at this view. Just this view alone made the trip worthwhile.
Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it useful. If you still have any questions, please leave a comment below and I'll try and answer it, maybe in a follow-up video. I did say I might do a video on how to identify fossils, so if you would like one of those, just leave a comment. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone taking the time to watch this. I'm still learning a lot, so definitely if I've made a mistake, let me know in this video. And also remember that when I do a fossil hunt, you're only seeing the fossil hunts where I do find something. Quite often I go on a fossil hunt to a new place, or even to one of the places I know has fossils and I don't find anything. And also I might be out there for 4 or 5 hours and I make a 6-minute video. So don't expect that you're going to find, 10s or 20 fossils. You might, or you might find 1 or 2 really good ones. But stay safe and I'll see you on the next hunt.